Hi everyone, as Basil mentioned, this is our third webinar on FTA E-Invoicing. So we have already covered about the basics and the five corner model and all these things. So we'll just be covering the basics quickly on this session, but we'll be much more focusing on how you can get your ERPs integrated with our APIs, or how can you onboard a user into Peppol network, and also what are the specifications of PINT-AE, and going through our dashboard and so on. So with that said, let's dive right into it. So, we have more attendees joining, but I'll just go through few basic introduction slides in the meantime, so they can join as well. So at Flick Network, we are one of the leading global e-invoicing service providers. So we provide e-invoicing solutions in more than 50 plus countries. That includes Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Malaysia, Singapore, and other European countries like Spain, Belgium, Poland, and so on. And we are keep on expanding our network to other countries as well. So as of right now, we have processed over 1 billion plus e-invoices count from over 4,000 sources that are connected with our e-invoicing APIs and direct integrations with through our dashboard. So as of right now, we have got over 10 plus government accreditations. That includes ZACA accreditation from Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Spain, Belgium, and even from Nigeria. And we are currently in the progress for the FTA accreditation as well. So we have already onboarded a lot of industry leaders into our network. So that includes Honda, spa supermarket chains, insurance companies, companies like DIPA, which is a publicly listed company in the UAE, Green Valley Holdings from UAE, Bureau Veritas, which is a French listed company more than 200 years old, and a lot more group companies and that are into oil and gas segment and service sector trading and all these. And now let's start a few slides on the basics of e-invoicing. So we have kept the templates pretty simple and minimal as possible, so that we don't want to bombard with you with a lot of information as of right now. But what we'll be having is much more practical approach of e-invoicing. So this would be a short webinar. So if you want in-depth understanding about e-invoicing requirements and all of this, we have already uploaded our video on our YouTube channel. You can just search for Flick Network in YouTube to watch that webinar. But yeah, to get the basics ready before we get started on, so UAE is adopting a 5-corner Peppol e-invoicing model. So this e-invoicing model is applicable only for B2B and B2G transactions. So in other countries, like the neighboring country like Saudi Arabia, they have all three, including B2B, B2G, and B2C as well. But here B2C is completely exempt because they're using a Peppol approach where it requires the buyer also to be in the network of e-invoicing in order to receive the e-invoice document. So only your B2B and B2G sales will be part of this e-invoicing requirement, but it doesn't exempt you from onboarding into the e-invoicing network just because you have only B2C sales. So for example, you are into retail segment and only have B2C sales, 100% of your sales invoices are B2C. But still you have to onboard into the Peppol network because you have to receive purchase documents from your suppliers. So in order to receive these documents, you have to be mandatorily in the Peppol network in order to comply with the e-invoicing requirements in UAE. And just like in different countries, they have different approaches like embedding a QR code on the PDF document and so on. But in UAE, what we are having is a structured XML document. So we'll be generating this structured XML document further to this webinar. So this specific structured XML is called as PINT-AE or Peppol International Format for UAE. So it has a certain set of tags and all these things, around 50 plus tags that are there, that contains different informations including payment terms, line item details, the supplier details, the buyer details, and all these things. So it is this specific document that you have to submit to your buyer. I mean, it will be submitted through our network to the buyer, and also we have to specify the tax portion of this directly with the FTA. So we'll see that flow as well today. And once we generate this PINT-AE document, we have to exchange it with the buyer through this Peppol network using AS4 protocols and also report that particular transaction with the FTA in a slightly different format called as TDD, which is tax data document, which will only contain the information about the buyer, few details about that, and what is the tax elements of that. And as you know, the deadline for phase 1 has been already published by FTA, which is July 2026. So as of right now, the accreditation process and the PINT-AE has been finalized. The TDD documents has been released and all such things are completed. But the complete legislation regarding to e-invoicing in the UAE is yet to be released. And since they have mentioned the deadline of July 2026, this would be applicable for larger taxpayers. Still, the limit or the threshold of turnover that is required to go live in July 2026 is not published as of right now. But yeah, we are expecting it could be anywhere, above 100 million or, or even 500 million or above. So we'll have to wait for the complete legislation to be released in order to have a complete understanding of what would be the turnover limit that would be there for this July 2026 deadline. But rest assured, after this July 2026, there will be phase 2, phase 3, and so on for different set of clients. So maybe the next phase would, the deadline would be December or even September 2026. That would even ask for lower turnover clients to onboard into this e-invoicing network. Ultimately, except for a very small set of taxpayers, all others will be in this e-invoicing network, so that we can have full utilization of the Peppol delivery and receipt of invoices, which could really improve and automate your business to an extent. With that said, I'll just give you few key points that are only relevant for UAE. So the first thing is that when we have to deliver the document to your buyers or exchange the invoices with your buyers, not just invoices, but even e-credit notes and debit notes and such other documents that are available, we would want to have the address to which it is being delivered. So just like take the example of an email. So in email, if you want to deliver a document to a specific buyer, you have to know their email ID, right? Similarly, in Peppol, in order to deliver the documents to them, we would want their TIN number. So TIN number is nothing but the first 10 digits of their TRN number or their VAT registration number. So even if, say for example, they are a group company, so this group company will have different divisions. Say for example, one company can have, their industries would be in healthcare, automobiles, other service sector, construction, and so on. So in order to deliver the documents correctly to that specific company, even if they are a group registered company, like a group VAT company, so their group TRN certificate would contain the TIN number of individual members of that TRN. So using that, each member of that group company have to separately onboard into the Peppol network. So say for example, if I have a group company that I have, few into the divisions of, healthcare, few into automobiles, few into, maybe shopping malls or other services. So each of these companies would have their own TIN number in the group VAT certificate, right? So in this group TRN certificate, we have to individually onboard each company. So do they have to follow the same vendor for all their group companies? No. So they can onboard with different ASPs as well. So ASPs means FTA accredited service providers. So, say for example, they can, a few of the industry segments can go with Flick, maybe a few with a different vendor or anything like that, depending upon their choice. So each can have their own management decision on which vendor they want to go live with e-invoicing. So using this TIN number along with the country code, which is 0235 for the UAE. So this is the country code of Peppol ID in the UAE. So I'll just show you the Peppol directory and everything a bit later, but just keep in mind the TIN number is what will be used as the Peppol identifier or the Peppol ID in the UAE along with the country code 0235. And another thing, FTA accredited service providers are mandatory for UAE invoicing. So even if you are a tech company and know how to generate these XML documents and report it to FTA, still you wouldn't be able to do it because you have to go forward with an FTA accredited service provider. So we are, one of the first few vendors that have submitted the application with FTA for their accreditation, and we are still in the progress of accreditation. So it could take up to 90 business days for it to be completed. So 90 business days is something around 4 or 4.5 months. So the whole process started around May end and so on. So we are still in progress, and as of right now there are no vendors in UAE that are FTA accredited as of right now. So when choosing a vendor, you have to keep sure in mind that you make a decision only after the FTA has published the full list of vendors that are already accredited. So until then, you can shortlist your vendors and do your gap analysis and technical assessment and all these things. But you can take the final decision once this list has been published. We are expecting it to be released in August or September month. So yeah, we can wait for that and then take a decision. So these are few key things that you have to keep in mind. One thing that I forgot to mention is that if you have any questions on any slide, you can just post your question on the comment section. Right around the right bottom side, you can see a message option. You can type in your questions over there, and then we'll be considering it at the very end. So yeah, let's take a brief at how the document flow of how the creation of an invoice gets flowed to your buyer and also to the FTA. So as I mentioned, this is a 5-corner model that we have in the UAE. So 5-corner means there are 5 elements over here. So one is a supplier, the second one is the supplier's service provider of e-invoicing. The third one is a buyer's service provider for e-invoicing, and the fourth corner is the buyer's ERP, and the fifth corner is the Ministry of Finance or the FTA Authority. So over here, the supplier, you might be using SAP, Oracle, Dynamics, or any other kind of ERP. Maybe it's an in-house ERP or CRM solution, or even a POS solution. So even if you are into retail and have POS systems at your stores, you might still have to connect that POS systems with the e-invoicing partner, just because there might be few customers who would come and request for a tax invoice under their company's name. So you might have to have this feature even enabled on your POS devices. But mostly, what you'll be having is the invoices directly from your ERP side. So basically, when you create an invoice, say for example, if you create an invoice in SAP S/4HANA or anything like that, so as soon as you post that particular invoice into your ERP, so depending upon your ERP's capabilities, we can use either APIs, SFTP, or XML imports directly into our dashboard, or you can manually import invoices into our dashboard. So when I mean by manual import or manually typing the invoices into our dashboard, this is more suitable for businesses that have very few invoice count. But if you have a very high invoice count or something like that, it is always better to integrate with your ERP using API or SFTP or any other integration method, like directly connecting with your database or something like that. So basically, when you post the invoice, it will auto trigger an API request to the supplier service provider. So what I have mentioned is here it as accredited service provider is because only an accredited service provider will be able to receive the documents and be able to send it with the Ministry of Finance or the FTA. So once it reaches to our server over here, what we will do is that we will parse the data, we will clean the data, and we'll do data validation. So say for example, if you forgot to insert the address details about the buyer in your ERP, or there is any other validation error in your ERP system, so that will be captured in our server. If there is an issue, that will be reported back to your ERP. Say for example, the Peppol ID is wrong or something like that. So as soon as you send the request to our server, we will be returning it back to your ERP saying that these are the missing details or these are the details that you have to correct. So we'll see a video on such an ERP integration later point of time in this webinar. But as of right now, you can understand it like you will be receiving status and all these messages directly in your ERP site. So once it reaches to our server, we will clean it, we will parse it, and we'll do data validation. If everything is okay, then we will search for your buyer in the Peppol network. So we will find your buyer in the Peppol. They might be using Flick, or they might be using any other service provider as well, maybe any other accredited service provider. So even if they're using any other service provider, we'll still be able to deliver the PINT-AE XML document directly to them through this Peppol network. And also through Peppol network itself, we'll be also delivering the tax data document or TDD document directly with the FTA, and we will receive their response. From the FTA side, we will receive acknowledgement from their side, and from the buyer side also we will be receiving an acknowledgement that they have received this particular invoice from your side. So the buyer's accredited service provider also have to report this same transaction with the Ministry of Finance. So they have to send this document to the Ministry of Finance saying that they have purchased this document from this supplier and these are the tax details. And so from both the side, from the supplier side through their supplier's service provider, they have to send it to the Ministry of Finance. And from the buyer side also, they have to report it to the Ministry of Finance as soon as they receive it. So when they receive it, they will be able to automatically add that particular invoice to their ERP. Why they will be able to add it to the ERP? Say for example, if you are the buyer over here and your business is using Flick as the service provider, and say for example you are using Oracle or anything like that. So when your supplier, say for example ABC company will send the invoice to their service provider. It might be Flick or any other e-invoicing vendor that is accredited in the UAE. So they might send it to the Ministry of Finance, and when they deliver it to us, since we are at your buyer side as of right now, I'm speaking from you as a buyer perspective. So when we receive it, as soon as we receive it, we will send it to the FTA authority, get the reported status from there, and also we will be able to automatically add this invoice to your ERP. How we will be able to add it? Because in this particular PINT-AE format, there are all the details like line item details, the supplier details, what is the payment terms, what is the PO number, all such details, or even remarks, notes, all such things can be added into this PINT-AE format, so that once we receive it, we will be able to directly add it as a draft invoice or as completed invoice depending upon your integration requirements. So if you don't want it to be directly linked with your ERP system, we can also enable just to show it in our dashboard, and you can have a trigger at our dashboard stage where you can accept that invoice, and then only it will flow to your ERP. Or it can be either way. If you want it to be as an approval mechanism inside our dashboard before passing it to your ERP, you can do it like that. Or if you want it to be created as a draft invoice, or an invoice that is not posted as a purchase document, if you want to be displayed over there, so user can data enrich it, maybe say for example give the item codes correctly, or even the PO number, or add any nodes and then post it, they can do it like that. Or if you want full automation, like directly post that invoice into your ERP along with the details that is given by supplier, we can do it like that as well. So this is a complete flow of a domestic e-invoicing sale that has happened in the UAE. And yeah, so now we'll just take a case of how an export invoice or a domestic non-Peppol transaction will work. So say for example, in July 2026, when you go live, not all the businesses in the UAE will be already on the e-invoicing network. Maybe they have lesser turnover, and they might be exempt from receiving e-invoices or something like that. So in such cases, or even if your buyer is a foreign buyer, in such cases, the supplier, you will have to send it to our server. We will report it to the Ministry of Finance, but then the process ends over there. We are not delivering it to the buyer because they are not in the Peppol network. So either you can prepare the PDF and give it to your buyer, or maybe print it and give it, or any other means as you prefer. But we can have an optional integration where we can automatically deliver that invoice in a standard PDF layout or in your customized PDF layout directly to the buyer from our server itself. So in your ERP, anyways, when you submit that invoice, you'll be able to see if the buyer was actually in the Peppol network or not, because you'll be receiving two statuses inside your ERP. One is the FTA status and the buyer status. So the FTA status will show as reported if we just reported it with the FTA. But if it shows us not delivered to the buyer, then it means that they are not in the Peppol network, or you have given a wrong Peppol ID in that case. So that's basically it for export transactions or domestic transactions that are non-Peppol transactions. And now I'll just get into our dashboard and show you live onboarding into Peppol for a test organization, and also how we can generate a PINT-AE XML document. So I'll go over here, So before that, I'll just show you there is a thing called as directory.peppol.eu. So this directory.peppol.eu is a website, is a public directory of all the entities that are already in the Peppol network. So for example, if I just search for Apple over here, you can see there are different organizations with Apple in their name, like Appleberry Limited from New Zealand, Pineapple Lumps from New Zealand, Apple Coach from Netherlands, and so on. So there are a lot of entities that has Apple in its name. So basically, if you see over here, there is a participant ID, the country, and the entity name. So you can click on view details to view more details about this company. So for example, you can see when they were registered and what is their full Peppol participant ID and so on. But what we are interested over here is this. So the first four digits is the country code. This is what I mentioned over here, like 0235 will be the unique country code for the UAE. So you can see all the companies with New Zealand as its country has 0088 as a number, and after a colon it is that country's tax identification number. So different countries have different numbers for the tax identification. So in UAE, how it will be is that 0235 colon the TIN number that is available for that country, for that company. So this is the public production directory. There is a thing called as test directory as well. Similarly, so in test directory also, if you just search for something, you will be able to see different companies from different regions that has their own tax ID and their own country and all these things. So this is completely a test directory that can be used for pilot testing and just for submitting document for test to see if your ERP is capable of no, not really ERP, but you test around with sending and receiving invoices within your companies. So yeah, so and there is another thing. So who can be onboarding over? Who can onboard over here? So in all other countries, it doesn't require FTA approval, right? So any person that is Peppol certified is the person who can onboard over here. So if you just see, if we just search for Flick network under this Peppol certified service providers, you can find us already over here. We were already providing Peppol services in other countries before UAE has introduced this Peppol based e-invoicing over here. So we are already compiled with Peppol. We are already a member of Peppol. So Peppol is nothing but a non-profit organization based in Belgium. So this specific Peppol network is used in countries like Singapore, Germany, Belgium, and so on for e-invoicing purposes. Okay, so now let's log in into our dashboard. So it's a sandbox dashboard that we have. So let me just copy the logins. So this is still in development. We are bringing in more features to this, and you'll be having a lot of updates over here. But basically, once we log in, we'll be able to see, different organizations from here. You'll be able to see your details about the company. So what we are more interested over here is this section over here. So you can have different reports like reconciliation reports with your ERP, tax reports, and all these things over here, so that you can easily manage your e-invoices. And different integration add-ons will be available in the integrations page over here. And in the documents, we have send documents and receive documents. And yeah, so we'll first go to participants to see how an onboarding of a company that we can do. So we'll just select. So this is not the complete flow, because the complete flow requires the MR tax portal and all these things in order to fully integrate with a company. So but we'll just take you through the basic flow and show you that company being onboarded in the Peppol network. So let me just click next. So over here, maybe we can just put Flick Webinar LLC company or something like this, any random name. And the tax registration number, I'll just put some random digits over here. Yeah, and I'll just copy the first 10 digits and put in the TIN number over here. Okay, and trade license number, I'll just put dummy numbers and I'll select it as LLC company. And the address I'll just give as maybe Sharjah, or Sharjah over here, SHJ, or any such details. So contact details I'll just give Flick network and the email ID flick@flick.network, and the contact details. So this is the flow. So after this flow, actually it should move you to the MR tax portal, and all such details will be actually fetched from that. But for now, we'll just continue like this. So as you can see, the Peppol ID is displayed over here and the documents that you require over here. So I'll just click on next. So this is the portion that I mentioned. So once the MR tax portal comes up with the e-invoicing options over there, so what you will have to do is that log into a MR tax portal, go to e-invoicing tab, and from there you'll be able to select your vendor. So from there you'll have to select Flick Network LLC as your vendor, and then click verify. So as you click verify, we'll be fetching the details from MR tax portal and seeing if you have already done that integration or done that selection over the MR tax portal, and then it will be showing as verified. So for demo purpose, we have just skipped that validations over here, and I'll just click on continue and just wait for a couple of seconds for this to be processed. And as you can see, now the welcome screen with all the details about the company is displayed over here along with the Peppol ID. So I'll just do one thing. I'll go to dashboard, and now to see this company, I can just click on this Peppol ID over here. And as you can see in the test directory of Peppol right now, as we just stated, July 24, 2025, the new ID that we have just given, right? That company has been onboarded over here along with this Peppol ID. So this Peppol ID is what is shown over here. So 0235 the country code, after the colon the TIN number. So if you want, you can just search this over here as well, and you will be able to find the details like this, onboarded by Flick and so on. Okay, so this is the onboarding process. So if you have any questions, you can just drop it down in the section, the comment section, and we can just select that company and go to the documents and click on send. So these are the documents that I'm going to create. Okay, in the meantime, let me do one thing. Let me open an incognito tab, and over here let me just open a company that is for receiving the document. Okay, so let me just enter the name, and let me just copy the password. Yeah, and let me log in over here. So there are two things. One is, so in the incognito tab, I have the receiving company, and over here I have the main company which is creating the invoice. So assume this as you who is going to create the invoice. You can also import using an Excel template over here. But what I'm going to use right now is to manually type in the invoice over here. So I'll just type in invoice, maybe webinar 01 or something like that. So as you can see in the document section over here, in the received section, you can see there are few invoices already over here, around 15 invoices as of right now. But let's just create a new invoice from here. As invoice webinar 01, maybe I'll just give 05 just to make it unique, and receiving party, I'll just select the company's name, and that would be a lot more options available over here like payment terms and all these things. But if you are using an ERP integration, anyways we'll be fetching all those data from your ERP system itself. So I'll just type in a laptop for 100 and select the standard tax over here. So we have the total as 105 AED over here and all these things. So once I make sure that I fill everything, I'll just click on create invoice. And as you can see, now that invoice has been created and is being sent through the Peppol network. So what we can do is that either you can start creating new invoice if you have any more invoices, or just give a couple of seconds for this particular invoice to be generated, the PINT-AE to be available, and it being delivered to your buyer. So let me just refresh over here. Okay, as you can see, already this invoice has been already exchanged to the Peppol network, and this reporting status, you just don't have to care about this as of right now, because as you know, we are also in the FTA accreditation process. So this reported status you can just ignore for now, but we are just taking care of this exchange status, which we can do as of right now. And let me just go to the incognito tab over here, just give a refresh over here. And as you can see, right now there are total 16 invoices, and our newly created invoice is over here, which you can have different filter options and all these things over here. If you want to view the details about the invoices, click on this tab and you'll be able to see who issued the invoice and what was the line item and all these details. So if you are someone who doesn't want an AP integration with your ERP, you can always view your invoices over here and mark different status like it has been already posted in your ERP and all these things. But then yeah, if you want the PINT-AE document, you can just click on this download button over here, which will automatically download that document. Since I am the incognito tab, it is asking me where to save it. But yeah, let me just open this particular document. So as you can see, there are different details over here, like the details that we have filled, like the company's name, its address, and all these details are available along with the line item details, like what we have given, like laptop, and what was the tax amount, what is the total amount. So in this PINT-A document, as you can see, there are many tags that includes the invoice number, that includes the payment terms, what is the VAT ID of that company, what is the what is the total amount, what is the gross amount, what is the net amount. Each item by item description will also be available on this PINT-A. So there are additional fields where we can give even the item code and such other things. So once we if you have some item codes or anything like that, that can be also integrated with this PINT-AE format, so that once you receive purchase documents from your suppliers, will be able to automatically link that item codes into your system if the item codes match between both of your supplier and you're buying ERP. So this is about, so we have more things to cover over here. So a few of the features that are offered by Flick is that we, as I have shown you in the dashboard, we have VAT compliance reports and ERP reconciliation reports. So using these ERP reconciliation reports, what you can do is that see if all your invoices are actually reported through FTA and delivered to your buyer or not. So such easy reports can be developed inside your ERP as well, and also on our dashboard if you wish to do so. So both of these elements would be there. We can perform three-way matching for your AP documents once we receive purchase documents from your suppliers. If your supplier fills in the PO number and all of these things. Sorry. And yeah, we have a comprehensive dashboard. So as I mentioned, we are still adding more features to our dashboard, and it would have even more reports and charts that will be useful for your e-invoicing requirements in the future. And as I mentioned, we provide e-invoicing solutions in more than 50 plus countries. So we have a unified global API and webhook. So using a single API, you will be able to connect it with as many countries as you wish. So say for example, if you have operations across UAE, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, or even European countries, and even African countries like Nigeria or anything like that, that has e-invoicing, using a single API integration with your ERP, you will be able to get it connected with our e-invoicing solution for each of these countries. So it reduces the effort at your side to get it integrated with the ERPs. And yeah, even for future countries, say for example, if you have Oman, operations in Oman or anything like that, so Oman is going to introduce around 2027. There are a lot more countries that are introducing in the future, like 2027 and so on. So all those countries will also be included in our global API, and we can have email notifications in case of any updates. So weekly reports that can be delivered directly to your manager's email ID, or say for example, if there is any failure or repeated failures or something like that, it can be escalated to your managers directly from our system. And we understand, since it's a cloud solution and everything happens through cloud, we understand that you would be worried about your data. So the first thing that we can assure you is that our data processing and data storage happens within the UAE itself. So we are using Amazon Web Services in the UAE that can store the data in UAE and also process the data within the country. So it is not sent to any other data processing centers. And we have already ISO certification, SOC2, we are GDPR compliant, and we do regular VAPD testing as well. And one thing that we can assure you is that all the FTA updates in the future will be covered at no additional cost. So say for example, if few fields are optional today and it becomes mandatory tomorrow, or is there any update of any new VAT code or anything like that in the future, your ERP updates and our API updates will be done at no additional cost. And we assure you 99.99% of server uptime. So you will be always be sure that our servers are always ready to take in your invoices. And all our APIs gives responses in less than 300 milliseconds, which is 0.3 seconds. And we have around 200 plus data validations in place so that it assures you all your invoices are validated before being sent to FTA and to your buyer, so that rejections from other sites will be reduced. And we have 24/7 support team that can help you with all your requests, be it ERP related support, e-invoicing related guidance, any bug fixes, or even any doubts that you have with e-invoicing as well. So we integrate with a lot of ERPs, including the standard ERPs and so on. So we have integrated with more than 50 plus ERPs and POS systems. Individual ERP systems, and all of these ERPs we have done more than 500 plus integrations, as I have mentioned, and it can be easily integrated with your in-house ERP or any custom ERP that you have. So even if you are an ERP developer or a system integrator or an audit firm that wishes to integrate your client's ERP with us, we have different partnership programs for you. And also if you are an organization that is into construction or something like that that has its own in-house ERP system, then we'll be able to give you our APIs and all these things to connect with your system. So we have worked with a lot of ERPs. There are a lot more ERP providers that are already our partners that provides you the e-invoicing solution within the ERP already. So yeah, that's it that we wanted to cover in this webinar session. And we know that it's a small session, but yeah, we have done multiple sessions before. You can definitely check that out in our YouTube channel to have understanding on the core aspects of e-invoicing. But if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself or type in your question on the chat window. I can see a lot more questions over here, so we'll cover that one by one. Before that, let me just, so basically in SAP S/4HANA what we can do is that we can create a report that you can visit by entering a T code, and it will show you all the invoices that are there, and along with different buttons that we have customized for you. So basically all you have to do is select the invoice that you want to submit and click on the submit button, and you'll be able to see the status from the government side and all these things on your ERP. But say for example in UAE there is no QR code, but in case if there is a particular country that you want to go live and requires QR code, so we'll be able to add the QR code on top of that invoices for you for that particular country, depending upon that country's requirement for the QR code. But yeah, basically in UAE, the only difference would be that you will be receiving two status. One is the FTA status and the buyer status, and a message field that shows if there is any validation errors. So yeah, basically this is a single click approach where we send invoices one by one, where you have to select the invoice and send it. But there can be other approaches as well, where as soon as the invoice is posted, it gets sent to your that gets sent to the e-invoicing service provider. Or you can have day end processing, where the e-invoices gets created at the day end after your business hours. So you can create the invoices, make any edits as you wish, and then it will be processed at the day end. And another approach is batch processing. So we can give you from date and from date and to date. So you can just give in the date and it will be able to process for those periods, the invoices between those periods. Okay, so yeah, we'll just go one by one the questions over here. So I can see multiple questions. Wealth advisory brokerage firm. So this is the starting, right? Yeah. Yes, it will be applicable for all the businesses in the UAE that has not just B2B invoices. Even as I mentioned, even if you have just B2C invoices, you'll still have to onboard into the e-invoicing network in order to receive purchase documents from your suppliers, not the import purchases. But if you're importing from a country that already has e-invoicing, still you'll be able to receive it in the Peppol network, but there is no requirement that you have to report that purchases that are imports to the FTA. So yes, all the organizations, even banking and all these things will be part of this e-invoicing network. So for example, just in case the FTA has not released the full uh, you know legislation as such, so if there is any exemption to any industry, we'll get to know once the full legislation has been released from the FTA side, which we can expect in a month or two. But yeah, based on our experience in any other country, I don't think such an industry will be exempted. So you will be part of this e-invoicing requirement based on your turnover, definitely. Yeah, so basically what happens in Peppol based country is that there is no specific time period where you have to submit your invoice. Definitely you have to submit it before the legal date for issuance of invoice. But if you delay your invoices, you can't do it at the month end or something like that. If you can do it, but if you're doing that, then you're delaying your cash flow, right? So after you give your invoice, only the customer will be paying you, and only in the invoicing, once it's gone live, your PDF documents will not have any legal validity. Only the XML document, or the PINT-AE document that you delivered through the Peppol network will have the legal validity. So your user or your customer, if they want to pay you early, you'll have to give them the invoice early as well. So doing it in real time or sending at every day and would be the best approach. Yes, Flick can work with standalone companies that doesn't have. So we have multiple approaches for such companies. Either they can import templates using Excel or even create new documents from here manually. So as I mentioned, this is only useful for companies that have very few invoices. If they have thousands of invoices, one thing that they could consider is the XML, Excel import or CSV import, but manually creating all those invoices would be difficult for them. But yeah, we do support mobile devices and systems that if they want to create standalone invoices directly from our dashboard. What are the mandatory details? Yeah, most of the mandatory details for customers in SAP would be already there. I'm assuming you are saying about even ECC R3 or even SAP S/4HANA or Business One. So even in all those cases, there are basic fields like address, tax ID, and all these things. So additionally, what we have seen is that you will have to maintain the Peppol ID. So not always the TRN number would be the Peppol ID. So for example, for a group company, the first 10 digits of the TRN number will not be their Peppol ID, right? Because they're a group company, so they might have a different TIN number. So only additional field that as of right now is the TIN field that you will have to maintain in the SAP. Okay, so I hope that clears your question. So if anybody has still any doubts on the questions that I'm clearing, you can still send your follow-up questions or unmute yourself. But we'll get into the questions that you have to ask over the mic a bit later. How is Peppol linked to FTA? Would the invoices? No, it will not come in your VAT filings or anything like that, because B2C is anyways completely exempt. But in the future, we can expect such an integration once we have a physicalization law. So physicalization law means something that would relate only to B2C invoices. So in the countries that have, Peppol-based e-invoicing, they later introduce physicalization laws. As of right now, there is no official notification from the FTA side for a physicalization law for B2C invoices. But yeah, we can expect something like that coming in the UAE in the coming years. But as of right now, how Peppol is linked with FTA is that the invoices gets delivered to the FTA through this Peppol network. So from here to here also, it is through Peppol AS4 protocols. So yeah, the invoices gets delivered to the FTA, they store it, but after that it will not flow to your VAT filings as of right now, but in the future we can expect something like that. Mainly it will be, as of right now, will be used for improving the business process and also to avoid tax evasions and all those things. In some cases, the buyer later requests us to make some changes in the, okay. So there is no cancellation option per se in the UAE, but in some other countries like Malaysia, we have a cancellation option within 72 hours. After you create an invoice, you have an option to cancel it. But here you wouldn't be having that. So if they require any changes on the invoice, you will have to create a credit memo. And if it's just to adjust the value, you can create a credit memo or debit memo. But if you want some core details to be changed on the invoice, you can create a credit memo for full value and then re-raise your invoice with the correct details in that case. So that's the only way. And what are the mandatory details required for? Yeah, mandatory details, we could share the PINT-AE mandatory fields with all the joinees on this webinar call. So basically, uh, you know the mandatory details would be already available in your ERP system, except for the in the Peppol ID of the buyers. So other elements like the line item name, the quantity, price, the tax details, all such are basic fields that would be already available, and even the buyers address, their details and all such things. So yeah, most of the details would be already available. We can share with you the PINT-AE mandatory fields list, so you can compare it with your ERP. But if you want our services for a gap analysis before we start, before we start any of our projects, we do a gap analysis and you know uh, clear those gaps by creating additional fields and all these things before moving on with the project. So that's how we as Flick as a company approaches our e-invoicing integrations. In case of a firm sending goods on consignment memo basis, how should the same be reported under this? So, even in such cases, there would be a point where you create the invoice, right? So it is at that point you'll have to create the e-invoice and report it to the FTA and also send it to your buyer. So until that, for your POs or GRN, all such things will be happening just like how we are usually having it right now. But yeah, it would be only the official documents or the final documents that would be part of this e-invoicing requirement. But in case, in the final legislation that has been that will be released by the FTA, if they mention anything on this, we'll surely have a new webinar with all this updated information. Intercompany also, we'll have to wait for uh, the scope from FTA side. So the full legislation is not yet released. So we are expecting it to be released within a month or two. So once we have it, there will be clear distinction if intercompany transaction needs to be transferred or not. So in most of the countries, they have their own legislation. So for example, in Saudi Arabia, intercompany transactions are not required to be sent, but in other few countries, it specifically mentions that you have to send intercompany transactions as well uh, to the authority. So we'll have to see, wait for the legislation. Once we have it, we'll be having one more session. So in that, we'll be clearing if intercompany transactions are part of it or not. Yes, Vietnam e-invoicing, you can directly get in touch with our team at sales at flick.network. We'll be helping you with global e-invoicing requirements over there. So for this specific session, we'll just keep it limited to UAE e-invoicing. And is it applicable for B2B only or B2C? No, B2C is completely exempt and will not be part of this e-invoicing law. So B2B and B2G. So B2B means business to business and business to government. The B2G transactions will be part of this e-invoicing requirement in the UAE. Done through the portal or devices itself need to be onboarded. I didn't fully get this point. So if you are saying that you have different devices, then definitely yes, you'll have to connect with an e-invoicing service provider through the APIs. But onboarding to the FTA e-invoicing requirement happens through the MR Tax portal and your service provider's portal, just like how we have the participant, create a participant. So you select the country over here and filled in the details, right? Just like how we have shown. So in that flow, it would be there, but I didn't completely get your question as such. Okay, and yeah, let's see for yeah, if your question is not clear, if you could just explain it a bit more in this comment section, it would be good. And in case of errors or mismatch in the how do the system handle? Yeah, so basically, if such validations will have to be placed in your ERP side basically. So say for example, when you're creating an invoice in your ERP system, you would have certain SOP that needs to be followed when creating an invoice in your ERP, right? So after all these checks and approval, it gets posted in your ERP. So if you mention in your ERP you're selling for 10,000 dirhams and then you send it to us, we'll definitely be considering it as 10,000 dirhams itself. Maybe it is for 1,000 dirhams and you add an extra zero. So that doesn't really come under the data validation side. So data validation checks if a required data has been inserted in the correct details. Say for example, you have a special character in the Peppol ID or something like that. So that is what will be catched in the validations actually. So I hope that is your question. So if not, please drop a comment once more. What's the process? The B2B invoice after that. Yes, cancellation process, as I mentioned, it has to happen through a credit memo. So yeah, if there is any errors in the data, you will have to send it through that. Okay. And what is the process of consignment sales? Okay, consignment sales we just covered just above as well. So basically, once you send the final invoice to the buyer, it is at that point you'll have to create the e-invoice as well. But once the full legislation is released by FTA, if there is any specific changes for the consignment, we'll be definitely updating over a new webinar or our newsletters. Same has been identified after 30-40 days. Yeah, how do we rectify? Yeah, so even if it is after 1 day or same day or even after 30-40 days, still the process is same. You have to create a credit note with the current date and then submit it with the FTA and submit it to your buyer and then create a new invoice. But if you want to reduce the value, you can always just create a credit memo. If you want to increase the value, you can always create a debit memo and send it through this e-invoicing network. Yes, not really. You don't have to have any special licensing requirements to connect with SAP S/4HANA or anything like that. So we'll be able to customize the solution for you. There is a thing called as DRC. So if you already have it, we can make utilization of that as well in order to get it connected with your system. So not all clients would require an ERP integration. Say for example, you are into a particular industry that has very few invoices. Maybe uh, into oil and gas, they might have be having huge invoices for 1 or 2 invoices per month. So in that case, it is not worth the investment to have an ERP integration. You can always use our dashboard just to create the invoices and give it to your buyers, and always receive the purchase documents in the received section as I have shown over here. In the receipt, you will be able to see all your purchase invoices. Okay, so let me just go back to the meeting. And what is your hosting? So if you are wondering about the accreditation process, so the accreditation process of UAE has around 15 or 16 criteria that includes 2 years of experience and different insurance requirements and all those things, different ISO certifications and things like that. So uh, for hosting and testing will be anyways done by, you have to deliver all your testing reports with the FTA for their approval and all these things when you are doing the accreditation process. But for hosting, there is no specific required. Anyways, it should be encrypted and all such certificates you have to submit. But there is no requirement that it should be within the UAE. Just we as a company host our solution in the UAE because we deal with a lot of banking clients, semi-government clients, healthcare, insurance companies. All those companies have a different law that mentions that their data should be within the UAE. So that's why we have hosted our solution in the UAE. But specifically in the e-invoicing law, there is nothing related to that. It should be hosted in the UAE as a location. You can host it anywhere if your clients are okay with that. But yeah, if as of right now in the legislation or the document that has been released, there is no mention that it should be in the UAE. But in case if once the full legislation is released, if they mention it to be hosted in the UAE, and if we'll be having a new webinar with the updated details. Maintaining an invoice serial number, submit maintaining an invoice serial number. We can submit while filing return for each entire quarter. No, because you have to give the invoice to your customers, right? So if you delay your invoicing, you are delaying your cash flows as well. So you'll be having a tight working capital in that case. So it is recommended to raise invoices in real time. We'll have to wait for the full legislation to be released. But as far as we have seen in other Peppol based countries, you can raise the invoice anytime as you wish before the requirement as per the law. So for example, in every particular country, there will be a law that is saying that when you deliver the documents within these many days, you will have to create the invoice, or within the month end, this much days you have to create the invoice. So you'll have to adhere that law depending upon your industry. But yeah, if as of right now, based on the Peppol, there is no specific time limit mentioned, but we hope it would be in real time or at least every day itself. But we'll get to know once the full legislation is being released by the FTA. But about sectors like precious metal, it is part of this e-invoicing network. Revenue threshold, but generally very few invoices. Do you anticipate? Not really. Industry-wise exemption is very rare in any other country. We work with a lot of countries that has e-invoicing requirement. Usually, the limit is set based on the turnover. But in some countries like France, they even include the employees count. Say, for example, either you have 10 million turnover, or if you have 100 or plus employees, you'll be still able to go with the e-invoicing requirement. But usually in the UAE, it will be based on the turnover itself, what we got the information from FTA. But yeah, even if you have very few invoices, this is pretty common with utility companies as well. They have one invoice with, say for example, 5 million or 10 million as a value, but they might be having maybe 10 invoice per month, or even barely having one invoice per month. So for such companies, they will not be exempted. They will still have to integrate. So as I mentioned, you can always create invoices directly from our dashboard. So you don't have to make an investment to connect with the custom ERP. So what we have seen in the jewelry sector and all these things is they use a custom ERP and not standard ERPs like Oracle, SAP, or anything like that. So if you don't want the effort to get it connected with the system, you can always use our dashboard and create these invoices manually. Okay, hope that clears your question. Yeah, we would five-step flow with utility firms. The five-step flow will be same for all the companies. It doesn't matter your industry per se. As in your operation side, you might be creating the invoice at a particular time. Say for example, telecom companies will be creating a summary invoice at the month end. So the process of creating an invoice is different for them, but as soon as they create the invoice, the five-step flow or the five-corner model is same for all the companies. It will be flowing in the similar flow itself. How to upload SAP invoices manually in the portal. So either you can create an export from your SAP and import it directly over here by dragging and dropping the file. So we'll validate and then submit that invoices. But say for example, if you are using SAP, it is better to have an API integration itself directly with your ERP. So you didn't mention which ERP of SAP you are using. If you are using R3 or something, we have even integrated with SAP R3 as well.
You're on mute.
Oops. Yes. So from which period onwards was I on mute? Was it from here?
Yeah, last question.
Okay.
Someone accidentally muted everyone. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Yes. So okay, somebody's muting everyone. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. Anyways, so basically for SAP, for your ERP, we will be having to see which ERP you're using. If you are using SAP R3 or something like that, then you can use an SFTP approach, because APIs are not that available in SAP R3 since it is pretty old. But if you are using Business One, ECC, or SAP S4HANA, it is better to do with an API integration, so that you have everything that is related to e-invoicing directly in your ERP. So if you wish to see a demo in-depth discussion on SAP along with architecture and all these things, you can definitely get in touch with us on the phone number displayed over here, or visit our website flick.network, or sales@flick.network in order to flick.network in order to receive a complete description. Okay, and only items with invoice to be integrated with. Now, even your service invoices also have to be reported with the FTA. What about credit notes? This also have to be reported with the FTA. Not just with the FTA, you have to deliver it to the buyer as well. What about write-off stocks? This we'll have to see for the full legislation. Usually it is not being part of the e-invoicing requirement, but if it is, if it shows in the legislation, even if a write-off is usually not required. I don't think it would be there, but yeah, let's give it wait for the full legislation to be released. This integration fulfill this requirement? Yeah, so Flick, we have in-house ERP integration team, as I mentioned. So if you want us to do the integration for you, you can use our services. We'll do the end-to-end integration for you. But if you want, if you have your own technical team that can do the integration, then we'll be able to give them the APIs and guide them on how to do the integration. So both approaches, it is fine with us. There is no QR code. No, nothing like this. So this is not there as of right now. Anyways, QR is definitely not there. But yeah, any other identification, there is a UUID on every document. So if that is what you meant to say, then yes, the UUID will be there, but there will be no QR code because there is no human readable formats that are required. Everything happens through the XML thing. AIQ link to Flick. I'm not really sure about AIQ, so if you could just give more.
Hello, audible.
Yes, Mubashir, you are. Yeah, we are just.
So can you repeat on the UUID? What exactly is their identification?
Yeah, as an identification, you can see a unique ID. So UUID means a universal unique ID. So that will be generated on every invoice. So that's the only way to uniquely identify an invoice. That's it. There is no other QR code or any other like counter value or something like that. Just like how we have in case. That is clear to you, right? Yes, moving forward, AIQ, I'm not sure what AIQ means, so just give more details about that. I'll try to clear that. FTA do not auto-populate the invoice VAT 7. What does use? Yeah, so basically, even in countries like Saudi Arabia, let's take the example of Saudi Arabia or even Malaysia, they also require even the B2C invoices to be reported, but still they don't have auto population to the VAT submissions. So this is as of right now, it is not that maybe in the future we might have it. It depends upon how the government sees or takes this forward. But what you have seen in other countries is that they usually use this data for audit purposes, or if they see anything, in one month you have many invoices reported, in the other month you haven't reported much. So in that case, it will prop an audit against your company. That's what we have seen in countries like Saudi Arabia, where clients receive notices and things like that if there is any discrepancy in the invoice that they have reported and what they have filed. Is performa invoice possible? As of right now, there is no information on this. Most probably, it will not be part of this e-invoicing network. So this will be outside of the e-invoicing network, but we will get full information once we have the full legislation released from the FTA side. Is it mandatory to upload export invoices? It is mandatory to submit or report to the FTA, even the export invoices. It is mandatory. What about invoices for companies outside? So export invoices, yes, you have to report it with the FTA, but then you'll have to deliver the invoice in any other means, or even in a printed format, or email it to us, so we can also schedule these emails. Is there a record for this session? Definitely yes, we are recording this session, so it will be available in our YouTube channel. You can always go to YouTube and search for Flick Network. So we have multiple already we have conducted two e-invoicing webinars, so much more in-depth details on the basics of e-invoicing we have explained over there. This session was mostly on the technical aspects and onboarding into the FTA portal and all those things. Not the FTA portal, the Peppol portal. But yeah, the recording will be available and will be available in our YouTube channel within a week. In SAP, we create BPs for intercompany transactions using customer role, and there's a same configuration. Yes, so intercompany transaction, if this will be part of this invoicing requirement or not, we are not yet sure. In Saudi Arabia, it is not required. In Malaysia, it is required. In some other countries like Nigeria and all these places, there are different laws. So yeah, we'll have to wait for the full legislation if they wish to include this intercompany. Most probably 90% this intercompany transactions will be part of this e-invoicing requirement in the UAE. Not all of it will be sent through invoicing. Yes, so what you can do is that we have, for companies like you, we have options like this manual submission option. So you can select the invoice which you want to submit. So this I'm just showing in SAP S/4HANA. If you wish to see in any other ERP, we can schedule a different demo call. You can just email sales@flick.network. So you can submit invoices individually, and only that selected invoice will be submitted to the buyer and to the FTA. So similarly, if you want to have a complete control on which invoices you submit and which invoices to exclude, you can always use this manual button click approach. But we have other approaches like auto triggering upon the sales invoice has been created, and also we have day in processing, batch processing, and all such options. Yes, only B2B and B2G is part of UAE invoicing, correct? How many users are covered under, so you can create as many users as you wish over here. So you can have different roles assigned for each of these users. And is there a daily limit of number of invoices? No, we have no limits on the number of invoices, nothing like this. So we are, our servers are capable of even processing around 2000 invoices every few seconds. So we'll be able to accommodate as many users as you wish, or as many legal entities that you have. There is no such limits that we have. Please ping separately. Okay, and is it mandatory that invoice number series? No, no, that won't be an issue in UAE. Anyways, skipping numbers would always, increases the chance of you having an audit from the FTA side. But yeah, uh, skipping a number will not cause you any issues because it's anyways alphanumeric. So even you can have letters or something like that, right? How did you ensure are compliant with your and international like Peppol UA? So we have dedicated team who is looking into each of these countries. So the updates in each of these countries is promptly being updated in our servers. So basically, yeah, most of the countries even have accreditation process. So basically, we already complete the testing in that particular country, get the government's approval, and then we are providing the services. But if you want to see more details about the invoices that we have in different countries, like any other country that is using Peppol or non-Peppol, we'll be able to take that on a separate demo call. Can you please share documentation available? Yes, you can visit our website, docs.flick.network for our APIs. So you can find different countries APIs available over there. But if you wish to have a call to take you through the APIs, we would prefer that, because you would have to have a token and a supplier UUID in order to start with testing our APIs. What steps? No, when I say the legislation has not been fully released, what I mean is that what kind of transactions need to be included in the e-invoicing requirement and all these things. But most aspects about the infrastructure of the Peppol, the five corner model and all these things are already ready with the FTA side. So for vendors like us, we have access to dedicated MR tax portal that are sandbox MR tax portals where we can do different kinds of testing, onboarding, and delivering the documents to the buyer and checking if it is it's Peppol interoperability and all these things. So yeah, so that's how we ensure that our solution is FTA compliant. So we have to wait for the as I mentioned, we are still in the accreditation process for FTA. Digitally sign and timestamp the way ensures uh, there is no digital signature as such that is required from this side. So in the Peppol there is a signature that is required, I'm not sure if you are mentioning to that or not. But yeah, the date and the timestamp as such, it is only available. You have to just give the issue date and time of the invoice and nothing more than that. So there is no other details that are required in the PINT-AE format. Okay, so if we submit the can the buyer reject, there is a rejection option. So this we are actually waiting. So there is a thing called as MLS response and all these things. So when you send an invoice to the FTA or to the buyer, if they see an issue that is not in the correct format or anything like that, they can obviously reject it. But the timeline when they can reject it, or if it will be auto accepted, all such things we'll have to wait for the complete legislation to be released to comment on that. But yeah, hopefully we'll be receiving that in a month or two itself. Okay, so that's all the questions that we have. So if anybody has any more questions, you can unmute yourself or post your questions in the comment section. I know we have overshooted the meeting for more than 15 minutes. It almost, every question was so great and, in-depth questions that was asked. So thanks for sharing your questions. So if anybody has any more questions, we can accept maybe one or two questions more.
Some of them have raised their hands. If you want, you can unmute and ask the questions.
Yes. I think the people who have raised their hands already requested the question in the chat box, but if not,
he already left the meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Arshad, we had a question about Jordan.
Is it? Yes, we do have integration for Jordan. So, we can take you through a demo where we scan the QR through Sanat app, which is there in the Jordan, and yeah, we do have Jordan. Yes. So we create the files over there, and even the QR code will be able to help you assist with that. And how many platform you have enlisted now? Can you please share a list? So is it when the countries that we have? Yes, definitely we can share that list with you. So you can personally send an email to sales@flick.network. So I'll just share my screen for everybody to just note our email ID, and you can note down that. So if you are a audit firm, an ERP developer, or anybody like that, so if you want to partner with our API solutions or see how a partnership can work between both of us, so you can just email us to sales@flick.network or call our number over here, and we will be able to assist you with that. We can always have a physical face-to-face session or anything like that at your office, or training for your staff or anything like that. So we'll definitely share the list with you, and the fees is usually what we have is a one-time fees and a subscription fee. So it depends upon the integration methods that you want. If you are just using our dashboard, or how many countries that you want to onboard and all these things. So for specific quotations, you can always reach out to us at sales@flick.network, and we'll be able to take your request over there. But yeah, basically, if we are doing the ERP integration and things like that, there will be a one-time fees that you have to pay only once, and then there will be an annual subscription fee that can be monthly depending upon your kind profile and all these things. But yeah, that I hope that answers your question. Yes.
Yeah, that's it, Arshad. Thank you so much. It was one of the longest Q&A session we had, like around 20-25 minutes we had for Q&A. That's it, right? I hope there is no more questions.
Yeah.
We'll be waiting for your feedback by emails, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye.